Welcome to the Intercut podcast channel, the weekly place to hear the latest on movies, TV, and entertainment from 2014 that people can't cut away from. I am your co-host, Zachary Shevich, and joining me, he's so much happier now that he's dead. It's Arturo Zurita.
Yes, my favorite Lego movie quote.
I mean, I could have just said everything is awesome. I will leave that for Amanda, the Jedi, because everything's awesome when she joins us for a podcast.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
We have a comedic line from Gone Girl?
I can look up my favorite Gone Girl quotes if you want.
I died for your Cynthias.
I like that. There you go.
Anyway, we just talked about the best movies of 2014 in a movie bracket, but we wanted to break it down a little bit further and talk about what our favorite movies from 2014 were, and we've each prepared a quick top 10 list of our favorites. We do the top 10s a lot here on Intercut, but this is the first one we're doing where we're looking back. And 2014 is a fun year to look back on. 10 years ago, we're coming up on the 10-year anniversary of a lot of modern classics. But I want to know a little bit more about who you were in 2014, right? Like, we all were in the community of watching movies and starting to put ourselves out there online and stuff like that. So, Art, why don't you start us off? Do you remember the year 2014? What was life like for you back then, 10 years ago?
Decent, quiet, completely different room. Completely different vibes.
Still a lot of movie merch on the walls, though.
Nothing but, bro. Probably more comic.
Yeah, no, that was the era of comic books checkered on your wall, I believe.
Yeah, it was like comics that were also movie variant posters and stuff.
Yeah.
I know we had not met Amanda by then. I want to say you and I had already linked up by that point.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
At least online, not in person yet.
Yeah, no, but that was like an era where we were doing like a lot of live streams on YouTube, and I think there was like a much bigger community in terms of just being able to hop on people's stuff. I think it does happen a lot today. I think we keep it alive here on Intercut in general, especially. But a majority of the time, it wasn't really collabing to the sense of like featuring so-and-so in this video that's super impactful and they're here to visit. It was just like hopping on this 6 years before COVID became a thing, and everybody started jumping on and having those types of calls or content, I guess, to put it lightly. But yeah, no, I remember 2014 being a standout year where I had my movie pass, working overtime, and honestly, if it wasn't for that, I don't know how many of these movies I would have been able to catch. It was in an era where we were not getting press like we do now. Like, people forget that. A lot of the comparisons is always you see somebody who does the movie stuff on YouTube or Letterboxd or whatever it is, and you kind of want to be like them, and you want the same resources, but you got to remember, like, 1, 2, 3, like, it was 5 years of doing this without Netflix screeners. Was Netflix even a thing? I don't know.
Not as much.
I want to say it was barely starting. You barely were getting your House of Cards. No originals at that point. And then, yeah,
House of Cards is 2013, so that's probably post season 1 of House of Cards. But yeah, Netflix is not the force that it was.
Infant.
Yeah, it was a baby. Yeah. It was a baby.
So yeah, it was like I want to say it's definitely a before time before we got all the streaming to come out, because all these movies that we mentioned, we knew there was only one way to catch them, and that was in theaters.
Yeah, absolutely. For me in 2014, that was the last year I was posting reviews regularly on YouTube to Multiplex.
Really?
Yeah, it feels so long ago now, but I mean, I guess I've done stuff in the interim, but the sort of regular clip back then, and it was, like you said, just going out to theaters and trying to catch stuff and trying to find whatever indie screenings there were, because we didn't have the quick pipeline of things going to digital after 2-3 weeks in theaters. If you wanted to find a movie, you had to find where it was playing and make the trip. And I had a lot of great trips to the theaters this year because it was a really stacked year. This is also the first year that I personally or actually, this was the second year where I personally traveled to TIFF. But the first year that I traveled there, I knew nothing about the festival, and I only caught like one movie. The next time, this year, I was able to be there to watch Foxcatcher. I was there to watch Whiplash. I caught It Follows at TIFF that year, even though it didn't officially come out until 2015. But it was just a really exciting time to be interested in film. I was like in my post college era, still bumming around Philadelphia, figuring out what I was going to do next, and just like watching a ton of really cool movies. Amanda, what was 2014 like for you?
Very different. I wasn't back on YouTube yet. I was doing my last like half year of university. I was like working for the university and just like kind of not knowing where I was going to go in life kind of going forward. I remember like a lot of movies, like my theater here sucks. The theaters in surrounding areas sucked more.
Don't change.
Some things don't change. They suck. Like we're getting better movies now than we were back then. Like I had to wait for like, I don't condone doing this, and it actually doesn't really happen anymore with the way they do screeners. But I was like, it's Oscar screeners. It's Oscar screener season. Just like waiting to snatch those in to watch things. Or like I still worked for a chunk of it at HMV, which is like a record movie store. So I'd wait for like, we'd get the DVDs in while I was receiving, and I would just watch them while I'm working.
There was no other way.
Yeah. So, so definitely much different time. But so many good movies. A lot of fun, memorable theater trips of like coming out and being like, shit just keeps getting better, you know? Like, it was a good year.
Would you say it's harder to have started a YouTube channel in that era or starting a YouTube channel now? Like not even 2017, 18, which I know is when you really started uploading a lot. Like right now, even years into what we've had going on.
I don't know. It really depends because I have friends on both sides, people that like start things and like don't get much traction, and then people who literally have their first videos just take off.
Right.
So I don't know if there's ever a bad time to start a YouTube channel. I think everybody kind of has a chance to just kind of hit the algorithm in a way if you do something good enough to kick things off, or if your content's consistent enough going forward and you just hit the right trend at the right time. You know, I'm fine to be where I am now. But I think kind of starting fresh offers a lot of different opportunities for people. But if you know exactly what you want and you go for it and you commit to something, like you have just as much chances now as you do in the early days.
The marketplace is certainly a lot more crowded now than it was back then, but also like there's so much more room for sophistication and really interesting ideas. You know, YouTube, and particularly I feel like the film community on YouTube in 2014 was pretty basic. It was a lot of just like talking to camera stuff, and I think we've had a lot of interesting variety and types of content that have emerged in the years since then. And as you know, the industry has changed. The talking about films industry has changed as well. So it's been an interesting path to sort of chart. But yeah, I mean, 2014, really fun time in some respects. Also a tough time in others. Feel like we're all like in that early 20s searching stage of our lives around then. Yeah,
I got out of like a very bad relationship early that year. So like, lots of bad memories then too, but you know, good ones. It was fine.
Yeah. And look how far we've come. Developed into functioning adults, sort of.
To those who have remained.
Cheers.
All right, so in a little bit, we'll talk about our favorite movies of 2014. But first, make sure you're subscribed to the Intercut podcast, either the video podcast on youtube.com/intercutpod or the audio podcast, which is available on most podcatchers. Also, follow Intercut on social media, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. We are at IntercutPod. That's Intercut Pod, and that's short for podcast. You can also support the show for as little as $3 a month right here on YouTube by clicking the join button on our page to become a member, or by going to patreon.com/IntercutPod and signing up to join the Intercuties, where you get all sorts of interesting benefits like early access to episodes like this one, looks at our outlines prior to the episodes coming out, an ability to help us decide on future episodes and help us pick movies for our brackets. And you also get an invitation to our monthly Intercutie video chats, which are pretty fun hangouts. Also, if you're helping out the show, why don't you head over to iTunes to give us that much requested 5-star review? It does a lot to help the show. And hey, if we get to 250 5-star reviews on Apple, Arturo will perform a cover of Pharrell's Happy for You. So,
in Lego form.
Exactly. That's the #1 Billboard hit from 2014. I'm finding out from a Google.
Jeez.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Despicable Me 2 came out in 2013, so that won't appear on any of our lists. But let's talk about what actually did make our list for the 10 best movies of 2014. Arturo, Would you like to start us off?
No honorable mentions, just straight to it?
We'll do the honorable mentions between 4 and 3.
Gotcha. Lego Movie. It's almost like you summoned it. That to me was the standout of this year because it got so much traction at the Oscars for not being nominated. But more than that, I think the reason why we have it all the way to this year as being a format now, I guess. Like, are you going to tell your story animated or are you going to tell your story animated through Legos? Is not like a really big thing for some people to do. There was that one kid who had done his little Lego take on the trailer for Spider-Verse. Ended up in the movie. Like, it's such a beautiful medium that I don't know why it took so long to make a big theatrical movie because it was always those straight to video things. But even 10 years later, we are sick and tired. I am with Chris Pratt voicing everything when he doesn't need to. And yet this,
it works.
I have no complaints for 10 years later because he embodies that character fully. I think it's a fantastic story. I think the turns that it takes towards the middle are hilarious, profound, and very creative. And I think it's been the best release out of all the Lego features so far.
I had this one at number 7 on my list. This is a really fun, creative, inventive movie. You mentioned the Chris Pratt performance. I mean, I think he's so great at sort of embodying the energy of his character here that it's the reason he continues to get cast in movies like this. But it's just a movie that does a great job in terms of adapting material in ways that we do expect and ways we don't. It's very knowing, right? It gives you sort of like the product placement elements and the self-knowing jokes and sort of the silliness of its premise sort of on full display. But then they'll go deeper and they'll actually give you these pretty profound ideas on the role that toys play in a child's life and what it's like to feel, special or chosen or have a purpose. And I don't know, just the way that it sort of executes its twist is also one of the most notable things that I think has happened in an animated film. I really like the Lego Movie. So yeah, I think it's a great pick. I have it at 7. Art, you brought it up at number 10. I'll go with my number 10 next, and that's Bong Joon-ho's Snowpiercer. I think it's a really riveting thriller set on a train that's circling a world that's been iced over. And, aside from those elements that feel like they're extrapolated from, the problems that we're worried about today into a untenable future. I think there's just so much interesting plotting in terms of the way that the film sets up its characters as these representative figures for class struggle or different elements of society that either, work to help societal ills or keep people down. And it's also just got this incredible eclectic cast of performers who are speaking in different languages and coming from different ideas. And I just found it to be so electric and so mind expanding. Like it's such a interesting vision. And it's also very different than I think what we normally get from Bong Joon-ho. So pretty remarkable in that capacity as well. But just an electrifying action thriller. I really, really like this movie.
Yeah, I'll toss that as my number 10 as well.
Okay, cool.
It honestly, most of these, until you get down to my last 3, kind of all really swirl around a lot. But I just really like it. I also just appreciate Bong Joon-ho was like, I'm going to make a movie with Americans, and he kind of instantly just switched up his style while it still feels as crafted as his other work, but it's like he knew the assignment and worked around that. Great performances in that movie overall, and I think there's a reason why they decided to make a television show out of it. I don't think the television show is anywhere near as good. I haven't finished it, but I've seen so far, not as good as the movie. But there's a reason why it's held up long enough to justify having a show. So big
it's
fan.
Such a rich world.
Yes.
All right, so Amanda and I both have Snowpiercer at number 10, so let's go back to Arturo for number 9.
Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, the standout in this long-running 40, 50-year franchise that I think elevates the main character of Caesar, played by the one and only Andy Serkis. I think improving his mocap to a degree that it's lasted 10 years later. You watch Rises, it looks a little sketchy. He looks like the monkey from the like AOL commercial. But this one, I think, still looks just as good and has one of the best villains. Koba has stood the test of time. I think a lot of other big blockbusters have tried to formulate that type of character as well, one where they're damaged, they're scarred, so you kind of agree with them a little bit more. But Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, Matt Reeves, since this, even before this, obviously, but the blockbuster filmmaking that he's been on this run has been incredible since he made this movie, and I can't wait for the Batman 2.
Hell yeah.
Nice. Yeah, one of the best, maybe the best Apes movie.
I'd argue goes head to head with the first one, the OG.
It's very good.
I was a bit surprised in looking back. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes did get the nomination for Best Visual Effects, but it did ultimately go to Interstellar, a movie with really great visual effects.
That's a good battle, yeah.
But it feels like Dawn, they're a little more integral, maybe?
I would have argued it. Yeah, I would have argued it.
Yeah. All right, good pick at number 9. My number 9, I'm going to go with Ruben Östlund's Force Majeure, the delicious dark comedy about a family that sort of unravels after the father runs away from an avalanche and grabs his phone, but does not grab his children. It's just got like one of the greatest setups for a comedy about like the disillusion of a marriage. And the performances just sort of pull at that awkwardness. Like you are so tense, and the only thing that you can do is kind of like laugh to relieve the tension in this film. Just such a great idea, such a great execution. Still probably my favorite film from Ruben Östlund. So Force Majeure, I got it at number 9.
Nice. I think for my number 9, I'm going to go with... and again, this might be too low, but whatever. A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. The fantastic Iranian vampire movie where she basically just goes around stalking dudes who suck ass. I think this is a really impressive movie. It has a very distinct vibe, and how it was shot shot so well. I also found out it was like an Indiegogo campaign to actually film the whole movie, which is impressive. So that like a lot of the times that can make very bad movies. So the fact that this, they didn't waste the money, they actually delivered, and what they delivered is fantastic on a, relatively small budget. It never ceases to amaze me. So this probably is a little bit too far down on my list, but that's where we'll pop it for now.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, the vampire genre is like such a prolific genre. There's so many films and books and whatever. So whenever you can get a take on it that does feel completely fresh, completely original, it stands out. And both in terms of how it's executed and style and how it's stylized. Girl Walks Home Alone at Night is really, really a standout. So
double
nice
feature
pick.
With it just came out this year, Tiff. Humanist Vampire.
Oh, Humanist Vampire and Seeking and Suicidal Human.
Yeah.
There
you go. Double feature.
A pair of film titles so long that you don't know if you could print it on a ticket.
Also, I think the director did her. I think she skated for it because I think she did some other skating stuff. So anytime that they're skating on screen, like talking about the budget, she found a way to make it work. So that's fine.
Nice. So a cool pick there for Amanda. A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. Number 9. Art, what's your number 8?
My number 8 is the Grand Budapest Hotel.
Okay.
I think it is the best production design in a Wes Anderson film. We were arguing about whether this would be top. Is it more middle? I have it in my top third of Wes Anderson movies. And to me, I think it's the set pieces that he creates here. Because it has a lot of action as well in his way of doing action that I think stands out. I think the dynamic that you have between the lobby boy as well as the manager of the hotel, played by Ralph Fiennes, is a fantastic duo that he has going on. Yeah, it's funny, it's grand, and it takes place in Budapest.
A really great movie, and it also feels like this is the movie where Wes Anderson sort of became fully realized as a visual stylist, because he's always had like a really great eye for these compositions, for these like, often derided like parallel frames and stuff like, or stuff like that. But here, it's every single shot looks like it's lifted from a picture book. It's so meticulous. And everything since then, I think, has sort of been up to that standard, but the standard really started here in Grand Budapest. It looks incredible.
I think
that's my number
reaching for.
8.
Which one? Grand Budapest
that's
is
my number 8. My number 8.
Perfect.
Both.
All right, so both Arturo and Amanda have Grand Budapest Hotel at number 8. I'm going to go with Interstellar at my number 8. Art, I don't know if you have this one a bit higher on yours.
Yeah, why do you hate it?
It's a bit higher on mine too, yeah.
Okay, so we can revisit that in a little bit. Art, let's go back to your number 7 then.
8, 7. Wild Tales, a movie that I love that much. At number 7, because that's how stacked of a year we got.
Yeah.
I think it is one of the best anthologies that's out there. It's in Spanish and comes from Argentina, which if you've never seen Argentinian films, you're missing out on a lot. Those people make some of the craziest stuff out there. And I remember dying to see this because I had seen a snippet of it. And as Zach was saying at the beginning, and Amanda as well, about like that screener season, when was it going to be out? And I remember when I got a hold of this, I like every single one just gets, I don't even know if I could say it gets better, because I think the first one is one of my favorites. It's the specific plane scene where they're all realizing that they're on the same plane and they all know each other. The way that each one of the following ones ends up we were kind of comparing it to Kinds of Kindness, and where it's like a morality tale of sorts. There's another short film where a child of this rich couple has committed an accident in the car, and they kind of are trying to see if they can get away with it. And just the way it's directed, the little details that all of these short films are able to kind of like point out, it really makes you feel like it's not even what you would do in the scenario. It's how you would get caught in the scenario, honestly, because you wouldn't think of it. And you're like, damn, it's almost like, showing you an alternative of what not to do. There's another one with two people who fight on the road and end up like in a ditch, still fighting all the way towards the end of it. I think all of them are standouts. There's not one that I would skip, and I think to me is the epitome of what an anthology movie should be.
Excellent. Yeah, that's a really, really entertaining one, and it's the rare anthology movie that is able to just completely keep that momentum going. Like there's maybe better shorts than other shorts in it, but they're all really excellent. And yeah, it's a really cool one that it maybe doesn't have the same reputation as some of these other 2014 movies, but absolutely deserves to. But yeah, Wild Tales, Arturo's number 7. I said Lego Movie was my number 7, so let's go back to Amanda and hear hers.
I think I'm going to go with Foxcatcher. I don't know if this even originally would have been in my top 10, but the more we were talking about it earlier, the more I just remember the vibe and how eerie that whole movie feels, and just weird. It just, it's like it's there's only a handful of movies that can kind of really convey that, and that one really does just trap you in to those emotions and that vibe. So again, it's like the boxing family movie that's based on a real story. And I don't actually think it's just as chilling if it's fake, but what?
I think they're wrestlers.
What was I saying? I said boxers. Sorry. Yeah, wrestlers. But yeah, based on like real events. But I don't think it being, even if it was fake, it would be just as impactful
Different wrestling, but it has a lot of similar vibes to Iron Claw in just sort of the like looming ominous nature.
It's haunted. Yes, it feels haunted. It feels like the movie. Well, because the movie's aware of what happens, but it still is telling the story with that awareness in mind, and that rather than building into it, it is looming over the whole experience. And I think that does make for a more interesting watch than just taking you through events as they happen, because the things that happened are informed by what would have been happening kind of behind the scenes, or what people might not have been aware of in certain things and interpersonal emotions. So yeah, I just think it's really good. It's one of those ones that I feel like people kind of forgot about over the years, or wasn't that big back at the time. But yeah, the more I'm thinking about it, the more it's like, worming in. Yeah.
Director Bennett Miller. He's made 3 features. He directed Philip Seymour Hoffman to an Oscar in Capote. He made one of my favorite movies of all time in Moneyball. He made Foxcatcher.
That's Moneyball guy?
That's Moneyball guy. He made Foxcatcher, and he hasn't made a movie since. Come back, Bennett Miller.
Yeah, for real. Bennett.
Please.
We need more. Anyway, Foxcatcher. Amanda's number 7. Let's go back to Art for his number 6.
My number 6 is Birdman. Probably higher, perhaps on some, but
a little
this
higher
is the
on
Oscar
my
winner
list.
that we'll be talking a little bit more of.
I forgot about
we can
Birdman.
talk about it. We can talk about it now because I got it at number 5. It's not too far.
Oh, it's right next door. Okay.
Yeah.
Some of the best long takes in movies. It's one that's not trying to lie to you and say like, oh, we did this all in one long take, but we're making it look like it's one long take. And let's see if you can even figure out where the cuts may be. But that's irrelevant to the idea of you start thinking about the gimmick once you're in those settings, once they're arguing about what this play is going to be about. It was one of the first movies where I was just like, do they have Edward Norton playing Edward Norton? When you start, looking back on what's his name was the main character and
Michael
realizing,
Keaton, the metatextual nature of a lot of those performances.
all of that was fantastic stuff. I had by that point already caught up with all of Iñárritu's stuff from either my local library or whatever I found online. So I was like all in. I'm like, yo, this is cinematically enriching. I thought it was I thought it was scene of the year when he was calling out the critic. I'm like, can do this? Let's go. I think it's something that still stands the test of time. I think some people have maybe kind of revolted against it because of it. I know Iñárritu's kind of gone the opposite way of what the Academy wants, and personally, I think that's helped the movie age itself in a certain way. But then at the same time, seeing Michael Keaton go back and suit up has probably done the opposite.
That's fair.
But thinking of the context of the movie, it's almost like an inevitable doom that it was prophesizing,
Yeah, no, that's the thing. It is a very prescient movie in terms of its response to superhero films and films of that nature taking over Hollywood and sort of superseding the
before they did
the the status of these actors, right? Because like ultimately he's not seen as Michael Keaton, or he's seen as was it Regan Thompson in Birdman? He's seen as his character, and that's a constant dilemma that actors are facing right now. Is do you take the job that elevates you, or do you get stuck behind the suit? And it's just such a really well executed story, dude. Such a really interesting, well executed story. You mentioned that idea of it all being filmed to look like it's in one take, and while that could easily devolve into something that feels like a gimmick, I think they use it to great effect to kind of show the way that he feels sort of trapped in his life and his situation, and the way that the chaos around him just sort of swirls up, and it's all really benefited by that incredible kind of jazz drum score that plays throughout and gets you kind of nervous. It's
what a year for jazz.
It does. It makes you. That's the bit of it because it doesn't cut, and they're arguing with each other, and they're trying to find a resolution, but they're not giving it to you as an audience without any edits. It makes it more tense.
Yeah.
Emma Stone, incredible.
Oh yeah, when
incredible in the film.
Yeah.
So
the ending really powerful as well. I dig Birdman a lot. Maybe not as much as I did in 2014 when I had it at number 1 on my list, but I still dig it a lot. I have it at number 5. Art, you got it at number 6. Let's go back to Amanda for her number 6.
This one might be higher. I'm not sure, but I think I'm gonna go with Enemy.
Ooh.
The Denis Villeneuve, is that higher, or do you even have it in your 10?
It's in my top 5.
Okay, cool. That's what I assumed. We'll wait, but yeah, we can talk about it.
Nice. Enemy, number 6 on Amanda's list. Number 6 on my list, I'm going with 2 Days, One Night, the Dardenne brothers film starring Marion Cotillard. I just find this film to be really effective and powerful, particularly because of that Marion Cotillard performance. And I think it's a film that does one of my favorite things in that it presents you with a moral question, and then it doesn't really give you a correct answer. Like, all these people are put into this precarious situation where they have to choose between something that could be potentially harmful to themselves and something that's potentially beneficial to someone they know but aren't necessarily even close with. And they all have these like very justified, unique reasons for acting the way they do in their situation. You know, it's a film that understands that people are a myriad of decisions and ideas and complications. And I just think that there's so much humanity on display in that film that I find it to be incredibly powerful, and it still really resonates with me. So I like 2 Days, One Night a lot. I got that one at number 6. Art, hit us with your number 5.
My number 5 is Force Majeure, a movie that I think is a masterpiece all these years later. So it just shows you that these next 5 are going to be just jam-packed. Everything Zach had mentioned prior, it's just a movie where you really put yourself in that person's shoes and wonder, wait, what? It's one where one event, an avalanche, can cause the next 30 minutes, 40 minutes of the movie to be this somber, very quiet thing, because you're just sitting in the decision that he just made. And it makes every little tiny thing, from brushing your teeth to going out to another meal, even that much more of a bigger deal, because there's this undercurrent of what isn't being said. I think it fires on all cylinders. I think this is more of a comedy than some other movies that we may have put on the bracket. But I also think it's the best one that he's done. I agree with Zach on that one. I don't think he's come close to it. I think he's gone so far with his most recent movies to have them be better on the outside than they are on the inside. And this one is one where internally everything works for the characters. And now he's kind of, which I expect a person who makes a movie this good to then be too bored to just make a movie that you're gonna like. He's just making movies so he can see how other people, like a comedian who's not there to make you laugh, he's there to make himself laugh.
Yeah,
right.
That's what he's doing now.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a master of pushing buttons and sort of finding these like uncomfortable situations for his characters to navigate out of. I still feel like it's worked best for me in Force Majeure, but yeah, Ruben Östlund's such a unique filmmaker. Great choice. Number 5. My number 5 was Birdman. So let's hear Amanda's number 5.
I think for number 5, I'm going to go with 22 Jump Street.
Hell yeah.
Because it's fun. Like I said, this list, until you get down to the bottom 3, is not in any kind of order. But it's funny. It's fun. That's like, I put that movie on and I'm always like, this is just so good. Desperately need a 3rd installment of that franchise. They're just... so fun. There's a reason why there's so many like gifable moments, or just like clippable, like again, just the I don't even know what I'm gonna do. Just the like that's been used so much lately. It's like people were sending that to Elmo when Elmo was like, Elmo wants to know how people are doing. And everyone's like, I don't even know. I just think it's really funny. I think it's good to have a comedy in here. So yeah, I'm going, other than Gone Girl, but we got not Interstellar, geez, we got 22 Jump Street.
There you go.
In the number 5.
22 Jump Street. It's a great pick. I had it in my honorable mentions.
But,
one of the funniest movies of the year.
So good.
All right. Arturo, number 4.
Interstellar.
All right. Amanda, where's this land on your list?
In the same spot now, but
Nice.
tied with something else.
All right. So Amanda and Art have it at 4. I had Interstellar down at 8. Art, what's so special about this movie?
I did not realize the impact that this movie has had for people from the new generation. This is like their 2001, which sounds like blasphemy.
But no.
To them, the scope, just the idea of it. To them, this is the sci-fi epic that has inspired many of them to make big blockbusters that have that artsy feel, that is not afraid to also be, cringy. We have a lot of blockbusters that go out and try to do certain elements that may not connect with people. While this had pushback, over the years, I think people have connected to it a lot more. Either people just growing up or just looking back on it and having some space from it. I think there was a lot of Anne Hathaway hate around this period in time as well. Can't deny that. And I think it stands the test of time. The special effects that you had brought up, Dawn should have been the winner for me. And even I hear what really won and go, they had that robot actually moving. With the wave scenes, the way that they were able to showcase what would be the bookcase element of it,
right,
is just so cool.
It's cool.
This was even just those shots of like the spaceship against the vast background of space, like a little dot against this gigantic planet. It's stunning stuff.
McConaughey's performance is a standout. in this. I think it's better and more memorable than what he was awarded for eventually for Dallas Buyers Club. And it's the most pirated movie for a reason. I remember reading that stat and thinking that was like nothing else has come close to this movie being pirated.
Wow.
And to me, that just showcased that it's been seen by so many people, and I think people kind of have that shorthand for it. The fact that Timothy Chalamet snuck himself in there in a tiny little role, also fantastic, and just overall one of the best cameo scenes as well that was used effectively because we know how big that actor is. Great use of sound, and it was the first movie I saw in 70mm in IMAX.
Nice.
Without realizing. So this would have been like the gateway drug, I guess, if anything, if we're talking about the impact of it. I just remember not being able to breathe, and it scared me. It was so loud, and I've been chasing that high ever since, so Interstellar, number 4.
It's a great pick. This is the first Christopher Nolan movie that we got post The Dark Knight Rises, so I think there was also a bit of like some Nolan backlash happening back then.
I was one of them.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. Like, I was also starting to feel, I guess, maybe a bit cynical about him and this movie. And I think that it's also just got this really like unabashed representation of how love feels, right? Like, it's not trying to like hide it behind stylistic prose or anything like that. Like, it's just sort of earnest in its feeling, and a lot of people find that kind of earnesty something to object to, but
and they're wrong.
Yeah,
it
if
makes
you can just
sense.
open your heart up to it, it's really,
how are you
really
going to feel
powerful.
when you realize that literally every single second you're spending somewhere is like a year back home? That like what the larger implication is there, that even if you don't succeed in what you're supposed to be doing while you're even here, how much it personally affects you on so many levels, and just like the weight of that. And that like you can have these huge epics and still have them really grounded in this like this heart and this family and these genuine human connections, because I think that's kind of what we're all really looking for.
I believe this is also the first time that Christopher Nolan started working with the physicist Kip Thorne. Just going to great lengths to try and represent the science, maybe not, if not like perfectly accurately, like as much as he can.
This is the movie that made that other scientist, what's his name, Neil deGrasse Tyson, right?
Yeah.
Because he hated it.
He hated it. Yeah. It's like, come on, man, calm down.
Anyway, Interstellar.
He's been on his run on just the world's gonna die. If it ain't Gotham being destroyed, it's the world losing its crops. It's we're all gonna blow each other up. What was Tenet's? A reverse blow up? Like, this man has just been on that like it's the end of days.
Yeah. Christopher Nolan, the classic pessimist. I don't know. Anyway, Interstellar, number 4 on Art's list, number 4 on Amanda's list, number 8 on mine.
But it's also tied with a different movie for me at number 4. The other space thriller with a lot of heart, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Hey, there we go.
I made that work. I just love this movie. I think it's so damn charming. I think it's so funny. It was very unexpected. Everybody expected this one to bomb. They thought this was going to be the first, like, really, like, the big Marvel stinker of, like, who are these characters? Why are they making this? This is going to suck. But it ends, it's so funny with characters that are so good and full of heart, and this ragtag group of people coming together and learning that they can be their own family with all these different traumas and hang-ups they have. Everybody gets a chance to shine. Well, obviously you have your higher focus characters, but you still get a little piece of what makes each of these characters. It's got so much damn heart. Yeah, the villain sucks, but like, that's not why I'm watching Guardians of the Galaxy, like
it's cool.
Ronan, come on.
Ronan was built, bro. He had the little hammer.
He was cool. But even him, he's just there. He's looming towards the bigger threat that they have in the movie. He's there and he's all like, you're a petulant little child, but like the actual big threat is there, and we're getting we're getting the taste for him, and then we get the further how serious it is from like Gamora being like, oh yeah, Thanos is fucked. Look what I'm okay, but look at my sister, I don't know. I think it's really good. I think James Gunn just has a really good way of introducing heart into comedy, and then still delivering really solid action scenes and knowing how to logically follow through like emotional plot points so that it gets from point A to point be and feels satisfying once you get to the end. And it's something that Marvel has lost. I'm not even going to say lacking. They've lost it. They are so focused with appeasing people that are trying to guess things or subvert what people are guessing and giving them what they want and using movies to set up other things that it's incredible that the studio that's making the literal shit we're getting now was here, and now they can't do it anymore. They had to bring the boy back with the bag to get the third movie out. And I think it holds up. The next two movies, I like both of them, so it stands as a solid trilogy, where this is, in my opinion, the best of the three, but very just, I love it. It hit hard back then, and I love it every time I watch it.
There's a reason that DC's tapped James Gunn to lead their efforts. And
yeah, I'm really excited for that Superman movie because he understands Superman as a character. So everybody can fucking bitch and moan all they want, but it's fine to have a different, more authentic take on what Superman is as a character, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, this was like such a moment when it launched, and it really felt at this time that like the MCU could do no wrong if they could take characters like these.
A talking raccoon.
And
a dancing tree.
And
they were
worked.
Unstoppable after this. She said the bar was so low going into it.
Yeah. And it was kind of the same thing with Iron Man. No one thought Iron Man was going to be a good movie. People kind of went to it.
It's funny though. I wonder if in some way this movie almost like ruined the MCU, because I feel like Kevin Feige almost felt like, well, it's easy. Let's just throw random indie director at random property and we'll make all this money. And it's not the same. James Gunn had a pretty particular formula that works. And
he cared about the characters.
Exactly.
Like he sees himself in Rocket.
In them. Like you said, it's not even the big ones, the tiny ones.
It's the tiny ones. Yeah. So
wasn't it all called the Infinity Saga?
Yeah.
And this was like the staple to introducing what that was all going to be about.
Yeah, you'd gotten like the little hints of it.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we see a stone here in Avengers, we see something in Thor Dark World, but this is like, okay, but this is what they are and how they're tying in and what it's building into. And then that delivered, but it all hinged very much like the entirety of that act of the MCU hinged on Iron Man. This hinged on Guardians and
making it a whole space epic. Plus Infinity War, Endgame, I think some of the big characters that come into play there are the characters that we're introduced to here. I think who is Gamora, or what is Gamora, like that's one of the best
where
bits.
is Gamora
would be the bigger movies. So
yeah.
All right, Amanda's number 4, Guardians of the Galaxy, as well as Interstellar. My number 4 is definitely going to come up again. It is Whiplash.
Hey.
Before we get into our top 3s, Art, do you have any honorable mentions?
55 Burgers, let me see. Shout out Skeleton Twins. If I'm going for my dramas that people should definitely keep an eye out for, you got 2 incredible comedians playing siblings in this movie, going through grief, trauma, just showcasing that they could do some really good performances in a film, along with Stowe Alice, which I think would have been the performance of the year. There's probably one other lead performance that I think y'all are going to have, like right at the tippity top. So I'll mention some of my sci-fis that I really liked. Edge of Tomorrow was a great sci-fi. I Origins was a really nice indie sci-fi about how people get reincarnated and you can almost spot things through history depending on, the looks, the eyes that they give you. John Wick, I hope it gets mentioned because it was in my top 10. And then y'all reminded me of some other movies that were supposed to technically be 2014. So it got moved around there. But I'll wrap it with my comedy because I'll leave the crime thriller to you. They came together. One of the funniest movies. I think it stands on its own, but the idea of it being a parody of everything that we know that's out there is hysterical because the way that they say walk hard, right? The Dewey Cox one?
Yes.
Like, how are you still doing the same mistakes after this is out? This is killing a bunch of rom-coms. This is the reason why rom-coms aren't coming out in theaters for the most part. I love that one. Definitely check that one out if you have the chance.
Nice. Amanda, any honorable mentions you want to include?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and mention The Drop. It's just kind of a really solid kind of like crime thriller starring Tom Hardy. Also kind of has the dog connection, as we mentioned, to the John Wick type stuff. I think it's one of those ones that's kind of just gotten forgotten over the years. So it's definitely worth checking out if you're into kind of drama thrillers, and especially obviously crime thrillers, which I'm a big fan of. It's really good. I also had John Wick in mine. I'm going to throw The Guest as well. Buddy comes
Wingard.
back.
Or
Yeah, in the horror section, Buddy comes back from war and is not acting as one may expect, but to a further end than that premise might initially set up compared to something like Brothers or Four Brothers, whatever that one was. Brothers? Yeah, Brothers.
Toby?
Yeah, Toby. Yeah, Toby. I'm gonna go Under the Skin here. I think this is a Glazer one. I think this is really good. I absolutely love that Scarlett Johansson was still taking projects like this or working on projects like this while she's blowing up in the MCU, while she's doing other things and literally being the icon that she is. And again, this is kind of a similar one to The Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. You've got this person who's just so attractive on the outside that is so dangerous, which is just subverting so much of what reality is. And I love anything that does that. And again, I think we said Skinwalker. It feels very authentically Skinwalker-ish in a way that other movies try, but don't necessarily always nail. Big fan of that one. I'm gonna throw in a little Amazing Spider-Man 2 nod. It's not great, but it has one of the most amazing scenes that's ever been put to screen in a superhero movie, and I will stand by that forever. And I like the ending.
Which one?
So, the Gwen Stacy scene is so incredibly handled, so incredibly shot. It hits so fucking hard because it's directly a result of the things he promised in the first movie and then failed on, which is such a Spider-Man thing. And yeah, so it's good. I like it. I said superhero thing put to scene, not scene in general put to screen. What?
It goes Amazing Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 2. when his little web reaches out.
Yeah, and it's you can see the fingers.
Hair.
It looks like the fingers are going towards her. No, it's good. You're clowning.
Zach, if you don't like cinema, bro, like just say so.
Just say so. Dude, and it's like he thinks he got her. He thinks he got her, but we hear the crack. We hear the neck. Just the.
And I will say, in 2014, it was the one type moment that it.
Because you're like.
That was
delivered. We're actually going to show consequences of a choice that a character made in the last movie after he made a dying promise to someone and got selfish because Spider-Man can't be happy.
Bro, the consequences were so bad, he got fired from being Spider-Man. Like, that's how bad they were, Zach. Like, it went real world consequences.
No, it's good. Just that, let me have it. Let me have it. Sick fucks.
There's some people who like really don't like the movie. I never hated it. I don't think it's great.
Neither. It's not great. I don't think the movie as a whole is great. Yeah. I probably think it's better than most people think it is, but there's some moments in there that are.
Electro played Itsy Bitsy Spider.
Don't like that. Don't like any of that.
That was rough.
He also shouldn't have been in No Way Home because he didn't know that Peter Parker was Spider-Man, so it made no goddamn sense that he was there.
Did not.
All right. My honorable mentions. I'm going to start it out with a most violent year. Really wanted to get this one in the top 10. Did not have room for it.
Forgot about that one.
Number 12.
Number 12, I got the Babadook from me personally.
Forgot that one too.
You can throw those in your honorables. I got the What I Love at 13.
Good.
Really, really great Charlie McDowell, Mark Duplass movie about marriage. Inherent Vice, 14. 22 Jump Street, 15. I got The Edge of Tomorrow, and I got Under the Skin in there as well.
Yeah, I had some overlaps with art in the top 10 list that I just didn't mention, but yeah.
And I also got Ida, Blue Ruin, and Guardians of the Galaxy rounding out my top 20.
Hey.
But without further ado, let's get into those top threes. Art, why don't you lead the way?
Enemy. I
ain't
even listened to we were doing the bracket. I mean, it's one of my favorite Denis Villeneuve films, just personally speaking, what he's able to do there. It's the entire story of Paul Atreides and Dude. But like from one dude's perspective. The internal struggle of what he's facing as he's about to have a child and comes across a double of his and realizes that there's a lot more hidden internally than he realizes. Look, I'm not arguing that Nightcrawler is not the better performance that he gave this year, but I love the double acting that he did. I thought it was such a simple visual technique in the way that he interacts with himself that you're just wondering, especially, in 2014, it's like, how are they doing this? So many times they do not the Freaky Friday, the what's the first thing she was in? The Parent Trap effect, where it's just the way that they're shooting each other, but there's so much interaction between the two of these guys that I don't know, you're just like so in sync and wondering what's happening. It really puts you in his POV, and to me, the ending is a banger. I think it's one of those that doesn't need to be overly explained. You can pick up on it on rewatches. So,
Yeah.
Enemy, a standout pick for me. One of his best shot films, acted, all that good stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I'm a big fan of this. That's why it's, it's a little lower on my list, even though, but it's swirling around. It is one of those ones, like it really just shows the range that Denny has. It's one of the ones that really adds into that, because you've got he can do anything. He can do anything, but I feel like this one kind of stepped a little bit outside that. A lot of the other ones were more like crime related. So you had like Prisoners and Sicario that felt different and more grounded than what he's been doing now. But this one really just felt like such a removed piece from that. Another adaptation that's just showing that he ultimately at his core understands what something it should be doing and the themes behind it and the moments, rather than just trying to put a one-to-one to screen. It's like, what are the key pieces that need to be here to convey the soul of this? And you see that just as grand as you see it in Dune, you see it on a smaller, more human level here. And I think that's like, he's just incredible at what he does. And he's Canadian, so fuck all of you. Sorry. But yeah, good. Yeah, it's really good.
Nice. Enemy, great pick at number 3.
I love how you said he's Canadian, swore, and then said sorry. There's nothing more Canadian than that.
Yeah, literally.
My number 3, I am going to go with Boyhood. The Richard Linklater 12-year epic.
Boyhood. No,
and not everybody on this podcast likes it, but it's okay. I'm used to being the only person who's right in a room. That's not a problem for me.
Hey, we're right in our respective rooms.
I think that there's a lot of people have a lot of complaints about Boyhood, and I get it, because it's not exactly like the most involving movie or about the most like deeply realized personality with the Eller Coltrane character at its center. But there is no film that is quite mastered using time as a storytelling mechanism the way that this one has. And Richard Linklater is a filmmaker who's always had an interest in time and its relation to characters. We see that with the Before series, and we see that with many of his other movies. But this one in particular just really gives you that feeling of the fleeting nature of life and what it must be like as a parent to watch their kid just grow into an adult in front of your eyes before you're ready for it, before you even realize it. And I think a lot of the things about this film that people take away as unremarkable or as not super involving are things that are meant to sort of dull certain aspects of the movie, so you are more in tune with certain wavelengths and certain the feeling that you get of these small moments, these small, pretty unremarkable moments, and how they somehow build a person into a fully realized human, into an adult. How all these little bits are part of our journey growing up. And I just find that to be really singular and beautiful and fascinating and wonderful. And it's just so, I found it so powerful, and I still do. So, I think in a lot of ways, a lot of the complaints about this would be nullified if you viewed it through the lens of documentary. And yeah, it's not a documentary, it's narrative, but I still just think it's a really, really remarkable film. I wish I'd won the Oscar, but alas, it just has to remain a classic for all of time to come. Boyhood, it's a good movie.
It's no School of Rock.
School of Rock is also very good.
It's impressive for all the reasons you're saying. I'm not getting on your case at all.
No, look, you're allowed to not like Boyhood.
I have to watch it again.
Lots of people don't like Boyhood. It's fine. I get it.
It's not like he mentioned Miami Vice or anything, so it's Boyhood.
Oh God, I did see all that. Oh God.
Yeah, how dare you watch a movie with your significant other? Anyway, my number 3 is Boyhood. Amanda, what is your number 3?
Gone Girl.
Let's go. I got this one a little higher.
Cool. We can wait then. We'll wait.
Let's wait.
Yeah.
Art, what do you have at number 2?
At number 2, I have The Raid 2. The best action drama.
Yeah.
An incredible follow-up sequel that I would put up there with the likes of The Dark Knight, Godfather 2, and Shrek 2. I think
Easy.
it does everything that the first one did, but even better. Now, don't get me wrong. There are days where I prefer Raid 1 over the Raid 2, but there are some fight sequences like Mad Dogs in the Rain. There's that opening fight in the prison in the mud. The way that they're able to swap between long takes as well as just the kitchen fight with the knives and being able to cut, pun intended, in the right places. This is to me what action should always be, in terms of it being part of the story. You get to know the characters by what they use. I may be blanking it if this is the one with Baseball Boy. There's like a baseball boy and a bat girl. It's got to be this one, I think, over the first one. There's just so much personality to all of the characters that you meet, even if they don't last a long time in the movie. But again, just following Eagle's character from the first one, incredible stuff. I heard the man retired from Hollywood because he's going to go back to Indonesia to make some of his own stuff, and that's what I love to hear, because I did not like the follow-ups that came here in America. But the Raid 2 has stood the test of time. It has been shouted out for movies like Monkey Man that have recently come out. A lot of the stuff from the 70-11 guys or 87-11, whatever they're called. Raid 2, those were the boys. Gareth Evans, he needs to make more stuff, more movies at least.
Yeah, for sure. Really incredible and influential action flick. Great choice at number 2. My number 2 is, I'm pretty sure, the same as Amanda's number 2. Let's talk about Nightcrawler.
Let's talk about Nightcrawler. It's just fucking good.
It's so good.
Again, anything that I've noticed time and time again, that things that are nailing the media landscape thing when they came out have only become more and more accurate the longer we get away from it. And this is definitely one of those. That whole idea, if it bleeds, it leads, and just how that doesn't just apply to what someone's doing when they're actually chasing news stories of injuries, which is what he's doing in this. That's what he does. He finds, like Jake Gyllenhaal's character finds out that there's these people who go around listening to police scanners, trying to get to accidents first or really early so they can record it, so they can end up on the news. We kind of see the same, just extrapolating out in all areas, that everybody wants to be the first to any kind of big, kind of gruesome, whether that's visually, physically, emotionally, the stories, and just be the first ones to get them out there. And sometimes not even for physical, like actual money, but sometimes it's just for perceived social capital or just different things like that. So, and how dehumanized you can become when you really get into that behavior. So with Nightcrawler, his character Lou is already, I would say, a sociopath. If we're, like, he's so perfect for the job because he's already there. And you see how it affects the people around him that are more normal. And it really does come down to his performance being so unsettling and uncomfortable, and the way he'll just smile at people while weirdly horrible things are happening, like detectives being like, okay, something really horrible happened and you were there, and he's like, oh, it's fine, I made a copy for you, here you go. Like, it's just like casually like a cookie recipe or something. It's just, everything about this movie is so impressive, from the way that it looks, from the performances, to how it just plays out as a movie, and then just how it feels in terms of what it's doing. It's, big fan.
Yeah, just the whole way that this film sort of treats Jake Gyllenhaal's like vibe, the Lou Bloom vibe of like, he's aspirational, but he's also like a cautionary tale. Like I love a movie. I love a movie that paints its villain as a hero, and it's up to you to sort of like feel like, oh, this is not so good.
Like the whole, like, I will not ask you to do anything I would not do myself, is not like, I wouldn't ask you to do something so fucked up I wouldn't do it, is I will go to the fucked up lengths that I will request of you. And you have to succeed.
And you have to do it. The way that this film ends, I thought there's a really interesting thing where there's a couple news vans driving together, and then you see them part, and it's like they're going apart and infecting the world, and putting that mindset out there, and it's spreading like a disease. And like Amanda said, like we see that more and more as the media has continued to devolve in the past decade, and it feels so. Its foresight is so valuable, but it's also just this like really incredible character from Dan Gilroy that Jake Gyllenhaal brings to life terrifyingly.
Yes.
And it's just also like a really riveting movie. It's like, I dare you to turn this movie off once you've started,
It's
especially
so snappy, so paced. Like
once he's like really got his plan going and things start devolving in the back half of this movie. Like you
pretty much
feel
like once
yourself
he-
being.
yeah.
You just feel yourself being pulled along, and it's like you kind of want to get off the ride, but you can't do it.
Yeah.
I love this movie so much.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's only gotten better or just stayed as high as like the first time I saw it.
Yep.
This is one of those ones I watch a lot and can always go back to and find interesting. It's so tight. It's so just I don't know. It's just crafted so well, and it's great. Big fan.
It's funny because it's a lot like those movies that we get about entrepreneurs, like stuff like, but it's the dark side of it.
It's the darkest side of it.
It's like if we were honest about what capitalism demands of you, this is what like the Steve Jobs movie would look like too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really amazing stuff.
Yeah.
Nightcrawler, my number 2, Amanda's number 2. And I think I know what both of your number 1s are going to be. So I'll go ahead and say mine first. My number 1 is Gone Girl.
Let's go. That's my number 3. It's good.
I love a movie where every character is despicably evil.
Yeah.
And this is just such a well-crafted thriller from David Fincher. I think it's got some of the best film editing that I can recall. The way scenes are paced, they sort of... you feel like you're falling further and further down the rabbit hole. It doesn't have quite a conventional a pacing, and it just sort of creates this ominous feeling as you get sucked into the sinkhole. I love the way that this movie sort of plays on gender dynamics, like where the way that Amy is able to exploit her role as this like, you know, aggrieved wife, the way that Affleck feels trapped within the confines of his own situation, and how it's not trying to make them seem necessarily sympathetic, but you do kind of get it. And that's probably the best part of it, is that like he makes you relate to these disgusting sociopaths.
Yeah. Only
Only a guy like Fincher with his perverted mind could kind of venture into that territory. And even though there's some elements that aren't the same as they are in the book, I kind of just love the formula here so much.
Yeah. And the fact that it manages to be like two types of movies at the same time, where it really is, it's bringing you into like the first big chunk is all like, did he do it? What happened? And then it like pulls back on that immediately. And then you're like, okay, what's the deeper thing going on here? What is being punished by perception? How is this now going to end? I think it has so much going for it, and it's another one like Nightcrawler that like anytime I watch this, it holds up. It's always just as entertaining. I like that it's different from the book. I'll revisit the book to see kind of what Art kind of has the opinion that maybe the movie loses a bit what the book was going for, but I kind of like that it subverted the end and it feels very Fincher. Everything, it just feels like it's adapted super well, but then changed in a way to make it just kind of like its own thing on the screen, which I was okay with, because it didn't come across as being like, well, that was a bad ending because they just wanted it to be different. I think it's a good ending that also just happens to be different to make it fresh for people that, you know, because you walk into a movie like this, you kind of want to not know what's happening. So it's good that you could mess with people on multiple levels there. So yeah, it's just a solid, really fantastic movie. Great acting, great performances. You can't beat it.
Yeah. I think this is like perhaps the best that Ben Affleck has been in a movie, but it's definitely the best that Rosamund Pike has been in a movie. And it's one of my favorite maybe film performances ever. The way that she sort of is able to...
Tyler Perry. Definitely.
Oh no.
He's great in two, but the way that she's able to sort of communicate superficiality, like there's times where it's like, you know, she's lying and the characters know she's lying, but she's getting away with it too. And the layers of that are so well done.
She's
so
really great.
Articulate. She's incredible.
Shockingly good at playing like these sociopathic or weird characters. For like, I care a lot. And then even like Saltburn, just how like the aloof level of her, she was great in that. She's fantastic. Yeah. I met her in person very briefly, and she's so nice. Like usually people kind of give off similar auras to like Aubrey Plaza is exactly how you'd imagine her to be, but like Rosamund's so kind. Like, she was so nice. And I'm not saying that you have to be shitty to play shitty characters, but she can tap into a version of herself that I don't know what she's like behind the scenes, but like doesn't seem like that. Either way, just she's fantastic.
She's that
like
good.
Absolutely
she's that much of a sociopath.
She's that, and that could be the case.
Nice.
That could be the case.
She is Amy Dunn.
Yeah.
Doesn't she bury her awards?
Yeah, she talked about that, right? She buried some
completely normal thing to do.
Good for her. Dude, someone's gonna find those ones. I like that. That's
She's got
so
a reason
good.
for it too, and it was like, all right, that actually kind of goes a little hard.
I like that. But
all right, so Gone Girl, Amanda's number 3, my number 1, but both of y'all have the same movie at number 1, and it's the movie I put at number 4. Art, why don't you kick us off with Whiplash?
Whiplash. What did we not say in the bracket? Which, spoiler alert, it went pretty far on. I talked about how Whiplash has pretty much become an adjective. When you talk about movies of the decade that end up becoming a way to reference other films nowadays, anything dealing with a big coach, teacher, any type of training thing that maybe pushes it over the edge, Whiplash has become the almost verb that you use. Oh, that person's getting whiplashed. I think it's one where a lot of people have over time understood what it's about, because you get so lost in the sauce of it, like you're saying with Nightcrawler, where you have to decide, oh, wait, what the main character wants doesn't necessarily mean it's a good thing. You just get duped into thinking it is because of the passion that he has, but there are signs all along the way that kind of showcase to you, there's a certain pattern you can have to success, but what are you losing in the midst of going for it? The acting, cinematography, the editing, we talked about how sound design was another thing that it had won the award for, and it has one of the best endings, I want to say, of all time, that has minimal dialogue. I think like one thing is said and it just stares all the way. It's like, I'm gonna gut you
like a rat or something like that, like and then he just like cymbal hits him, and then
fantastic stuff.
It's just a masterclass of a movie, just with obsession and desires for being the best, and sacrificing anything for it, and truly believing and knowing what you'd be sacrificing and being okay with that, I think is the thing that really sets it apart from other things where it's just kind of like a cautionary tale of what might happen if you kind of lose track of yourself. No, he's going into this being, like I said in the bracket, like if I'm dead in a street in 10 years, as long as people know my name, I'm cooler with that than living until I'm 90 with a family. And then this movie kind of makes him reckon with that, and maybe wonder if that's what he actually wants. But then he's miserable until he does get back into the situation where is probably still not the best. Like I say, I kind of compare that ending to Midsommar a lot, where people can kind of walk away thinking that it's, oh, this is positive. Look, she's smiling. But like, is it? Is it really? Like, I think it's a little bit more up in the air with Whiplash than it is with Midsommar, where I would take a very defined, like, this is 100% bad, versus this being like, it's not great, but if two people are using each other to the same ends, at what point is it, your own just personal bad choices, but they're at least your choices. But it is so good, and it really doesn't let up. And honestly, the whole movie kind of feels very similar to how like the Whiplash song feels when he's doing that end, where it kind of like starts off and like they're rushing the dragon, and then like when it really just starts hitting you with like it's nonstop and he's panicking, and that's when you're getting like the frantic drum solo and shit, and it kind of I just really like. I'm a big fan of Damien Chazelle. Like I saw a thing recently where he was talking about like colorful movies, and that some people think colorful movies is just popping a lot of color, but it really is just picking what two colors do I want this scene to have, making sure those pop, and you'll automatically get something that feels more distinct. Which I know that's a thing, like everybody puts like teals and blues together, but he's like, it doesn't have to be that. Sometimes I want it to be yellow and green. I want it to be like just random things, but just so those pop. This one has like less standout vibrancy than something like a La La Land, but it also has like so much warmth in certain scenes for how cold the character, like the band room feels very warm, and then he's just chucking things at them. So I think everything kind of plays off, and then when he's alone in his practice room, that feels really cold. I don't know. There's just, I don't know. There's a lot going for it. I think it's another one like my last three. Every time I watch it, it's just as good. It's never dipped in quality for me.
Every rewatch is better.
It's
You've
better,
heard the theories about the Manila folder? And when it goes missing? And what could it have been? And I was like, I didn't even think. I thought he just. Whoa, that's something to think about there.
That's
and
what
there's
I
all
mean.
these threads that come out of the script. Yeah.
Yeah, and
like
that one always made sense to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, sorry. Yeah.
Comparing it to Midsommar and it being a movie in where the audience gets duped into, oh well, they're at an ending where they got rid of something we didn't like.
Yeah.
Are we going to ignore the problems that are now there? Same thing over here. He got the performance that he wanted out of him, so that's a good thing, right? We don't want to see past anything else. It's a movie on addiction. When you see something like Train Spotting and they're getting high, you're disgusted.
This
the entire time.
The
but
other
here
end
they
of that.
show you him getting high when he's alone and it's finishing,
and the hands just bleeding
like crazy. So at the end, when he's hitting everything that his teacher wants him to, that is him. That is the audience going, yeah, this high is completely okay. You justify it, and to me, that is the most effective type of movie making.
Yes,
when you're completely in the headspace of the character.
I agree.
Bro, and even with it being a warning of all those types of things, man, I saw Giselle take some notes from this.
Yeah,
I saw him do a lot of the things that Miles Teller did in this movie.
Yeah,
he did that movie on the La La Land and that.
Yeah,
so there is this balance that you have to have of it being that cautionary tale, but also knowing like, yeah, sometimes good job are the worst things that you can hear in the English language if you're trying to be known.
Yeah.
It's a movie that I feel like has no ill-placed scenes. Like each scene kind of pulls the momentum and keeps the intensity building. And like even when he sort of gets kicked out for a bit and the movie has like a bit of a lull, it's feels like the air coming out of his life, and he has this desperation to get back to that intensity, and particularly the way it starts and the way it ends just throws you right into the meat of it, and it's so effective, it's so well done. Incredible that this is his second film.
No, first.
That was his first.
No, Madeline in the Park.
Oh,
you're
yeah,
right.
Yeah, Madeline in the Park. Yeah.
I don't count. That's like how they do before Good Kid, Mad City. And they don't want to count Section 80.
Yeah, or like Christopher Nolan with Following. Like, kind of a first film, but
like not really.
It's a Sixth Sense. We'll put it that way, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Remarkable movie. There's a reason why I feel like in the years since 2014, as more people have discovered it, especially as young people have discovered it, really are connecting with it in a way that has made it like one of the most popular movies of the year. I want to say it's the most popular 2014 movie on.
It's got to be out there.
Letterboxd.
It would have to be on
Interstellar.
Let's check real quick. Because Letterboxd is a particular kind of cinephile, right? So,
yeah, but they also love...
no, Interstellar's number 1, Whiplash is number 2, and Grand Budapest Hotel is number 3.
I was playing with those stats, bro. I'm not kidding.
No, I know. It should be Whiplash.
But even that, like to put Whiplash up against Interstellar, a Christopher Nolan $100 million blockbuster
that like every person has seen versus something like Whiplash that like people are starting to see more. But,
exactly.
Yeah.
Really great movie. Amanda, can I have y'all recap your lists? Why don't you start us off, Arturo?
Yeah. From my top 10, we got the Lego Movie, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, Grand Budapest Hotel, Wild Tales, and Birdman for that second half, with my top 5 being the one and only Force Majeure. Do not watch the remake. Interstellar, Enemy, Raid 2, and Whiplash.
Nice. Amanda?
So yeah, for my list, in the number 10 spot, I have Snowpiercer. At number 9, I'm going to go with Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. At number 8, I'm going with the Grand Budapest Hotel. At 7, I'm going to go with Foxcatcher. Those vibes are just too eerie. In 6, we got Enemy. At 5, we've got the Hail Mary weird play of 22 Jump Street. At 4, I have the Tide space epic with hearts, Interstellar and Guardians of the Galaxy, because I messed up my list. 3, I'm going to go with Gone Girl. In the number 2 place is Nightcrawler, which is only in the number 2 place because Whiplash came out in 2014.
Nice. On my list at number 10, I've got Snowpiercer. At number 9, I've got Force Majeure. At number 8, I've got Interstellar. Number 7, I have the Lego Movie. Number 6, I have 2 Days, One Night. And in my top 5, I've got a bunch of movies that really could be in any order in any given day. But today, I have Birdman at 5, Whiplash at 4, Boyhood at 3, Nightcrawler at 2, and Gone Girl at number 1 for the best movies of 2014. 10 years gone, and still these movies hit just like they did back then. So many great films.
How different was the list? from when you made yours in 2014.
That's the funny thing. So I looked back at my top 100 movies of 2014 video that I put on my YouTube channel. Maybe I'll leave a link.
Top 100.
It's
And he doesn't like when I do 12.
I'll leave a link. It's unlisted now, but my number 2. I swapped Nightcrawler and Boyhood from 10 years ago.
Hey.
I had Whiplash at that number 4 slot 10 years ago,
Nice.
and I swapped. Gone Girl was number 5, Birdman was 1. They switched places this year.
Nice.
But number 6, 2 Days, One Night. Number 7, The Lego Movie. Those stayed the same. Snowpiercer went down from 9 to 10. I had The One I Love at 10, Inherent Vice at 8, and Lego Movie. Oh, I just said that at 7.
Nice.
Art, you have your list from 10 years ago?
No, bro. I have no 20. I think I had a 2013 maybe that I did.
Damn.
I didn't do a 14, 15, nothing.
See, this
Whiplash
is why
came out and
Letterboxd
Art
is
said-
useful. I
It
have
was
my Letterboxd list from
It was Whiplash,
2014.
that's for sure.
Yeah.
I know that much.
Yeah.
It was definitely Whiplash back then too.
Oh,
It's
easily.
been
I
his
think.
favorite.
Yeah,
It's been his favorite for years.
I've made Whiplash. I think I made a video for that, just saying that it was the best one. I want to say I covered something for Raid 2. I think I covered something for Enemy. And, Interstellar's Interstellar. But I remember, like, Force Majeure and Whiplash were the 2 that I made videos for above making a best of. And Birdman, Wild Tales, all that good stuff. I've been called Lobby Boy since the movie came out for Grand Budapest Hotel. And on Lego Movie, yeah, for the most part, most of these have stayed the same. I think a big part was when we were talking about films that were kind of straddling between the 2 years, like Paddington, What We Do in the Shadows, Duke of Burgundy, Goodnight
It
Mommy,
Follows.
Predestination, While We're Young, which was another one too that I thought we were going to
That
throw
was
some
on
mini
my
love to it.
top
What we
20.
do in the shadows.
But yeah,
Lots of good picks. I think we picked some of the best of them, though. That wraps up our best movies of 2014 coverage here on the Intercut podcast. You catch more from me by following me across social media at Zshevich and wherever you find videos at Multiplex Show. Amanda, where can people find more from you?
You can find me all over the place, but mostly on YouTube at Amanda the Jedi.
Arturo?
LME Movies on YouTube, Twitter, Letterboxd, all that good stuff for every week here on the Intercut podcast.
You can listen to every episode of Intercut Podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Pocket Casts. I like Overcast, but it's available on most podcatchers. Also, you can sign up to follow the video podcast on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/c/intercutpod, where you can watch our talked out faces as we break down the latest in entertainment. We're also in video on Spotify, if that's a thing that you mess with. Find new episodes of Intercut every Monday, and please leave us a comment, like the video. Consider heading over to iTunes to give us that much requested 5-star review. It does a lot to help the show. You can like our Facebook, follow our Instagram, follow our Twitter. Across social media, we are at Intercut Pod. You can also support us on Patreon or join up right here on YouTube for as little as $3 a month to become a member, support the show, and get all sorts of patron benefits. Plus, those are great places to hear updates throughout the week from Art, from Amanda, from me, from all the guests that we feature here on Intercut. Thanks again for tuning in, and until next time, not quite my tempo.